Hi there, I'm Garrett Collins from CANcube.ca, and welcome to episode 83.
Hi, this is Daniel Goodman.
Dylan Wang from JPerm.
Ian Scheffler.
Kieran Bunter from India.
This is Alex from Z3Cubing.
What's up, guys? This is Jaden McNeil from Australia, and you're listening to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
That's right. Welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast. Podcasting since 2014 and cubing since 2015. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the most consistent speed cubing podcast dedicated to entertain and educate you with in-depth conversations with cubers from all across the sport. My website is thecornercutterpodcast.com, and thank you so much for joining us today for another great interview. Today's guest is Garrett Collins, owner of CANcube.ca. It's one of the cube stores in Canada. We dive into what it is like running a cube store on a daily basis, how he acquired CANcube, as well as shipping in Canada, what he does with Canadian Post and all that. So it's so interesting. So make sure you stick around for the whole thing. Later in the episode, I'll tell you what's coming up in future episodes of the Corner Cutter Podcast. And as always, you can check out all the show notes at thecornercutterpodcast.com. Just click on the episodes page. Final thing before we jump into the interview is if you have any feedback, you can email in Josh at thecornercutterpodcast.com, and I would love to hear from you. So now let's jump into today's interview. Garrett, thanks for joining me today on the Corner Cutter Podcast.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked to be here, or to record some stuff.
Why don't you tell us all about CANcube, the services you guys offer, and the specialties of your store?
Okay, yeah. So services and specialties. I guess I'll start with what we do. So, CANcube, as I'm guessing most people know, we're a cube store. We sell cubes, so like Cubicle, Speed Cube Shop, and other cube stores out there, we just try to have a big selection, send them out to people, and you order, the basics. What we want to try and do with CANcube, though, is have a store that works as efficiently and as fast as possible. So we have our goal of trying to get all orders out within 24 hours. So that means packaged, labeled, and shipped that day, even premium cubes. So even if we have to freshly set up something, we want to try and get it out within 24 hours. And that's our main goal. I'd say, secondly, there's a very large deficiency of cube retailers in Canada. So a lot of speed cubers are having to order from America and pay quite a bit for shipping, and exchange rates are always a pain. So we want to provide the Canadian side of cubers with a wide selection of things so they don't have to struggle getting them. And then, of course, we want to supply everyone else worldwide with fast service and anything they need.
Nice. I definitely like shipping within 24 hours.
Yeah,
So when you say shipped out, does that mean the postal service has the package?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we usually get it to them by before 5, which means it's going to either get shipped out that day or the following early morning.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, because sometimes companies can just print the label and then it takes a little while for them to get it to you, to the postal service, or the postal service to come pick it up. So yeah. I'd really like to hear that. What % of the orders you ship out are to Canada?
I'd say that 98% of our customers are Canadian, and that's because we haven't really marketed towards people or customers outside of Canada yet. That's something I'm working on. We're trying to get worldwide shipping up and running. Shipping to America's ready to go. So I think as soon as we start letting others know that we're not just in Canada and we're trying to get it to everyone, then that number is going to drop to probably a little lower.
Okay. Now, how does shipping in Canada actually work? What's the pricing on a typical, like if someone just bought a 3x3 that weighed like 5 ounces, what is pricing for that in Canada?
Usually, if it's just a 3x3 around that weight, the standard. So I use Canada Post, and Canada Post is the standard shipping method in Canada. It's run by the government,
sort of like USPS in America.
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
just like that. So the standard price is usually, if I remember correctly, it's $9.81. Usually just for a 3x3.
And that's Canadian money.
In Canadian.
Okay.
I think the price is, from what I've seen at least, it's not a lot to do with the quantity of cubes or the weight of the cubes, and more the distance.
Oh, okay.
So I've been seeing people who are farther out, it seems to cost more. So trying to work out the best way to keep shipping cheap is definitely a high priority.
That's interesting. Yeah, because in the US, between up to a pound, it's within a couple dollars. But then after you get over a pound, it jumps way up. So it's interesting that price is based off of distance and not weight. Because, I mean, distance does play a little bit of a factor in US shipping, but not like too much.
Yeah, and I'm sure weight does have something to do with the price, because I have seen, when it's over 1 point something, it goes up a little bit, but it's definitely been distance that's the big contributor from what I've seen.
Okay. And then, like, what different shipping services does Canadian Post offer? What's the standard one called?
I can pull it up right now on my website. We usually have, I'm not sure exactly what the names are, because they're kind of named in weird ways, but you can do, there's 3 different ones that we offer. So there's your basic, the cheapest shipping option. That's what usually people go with. It gets to your, depending where you are in Canada, it's usually 1 to 3 days or 3 to 5 days until it delivers. But, the more you pay, the faster the shipment arrives. So if you need it in 1 day or 1 to 2 days, you can pay the highest one and your cube's there. But usually the best is just to go with the cheap option, because it's going to arrive anyways.
Okay, cool. Now, could you explain the difference between a Canadian dollar and a US dollar? What's the exchange rate, if you know right off the top of your head?
What I usually use is $1.32. So on the website, we have it automatically convert all the currency anyways. But if you're American and you're trying to figure out what your order is going to be in Canadian, you can just multiply it by 1.32. So let's say your order is $68.99. Just multiply that by 1.32 and you have the Canadian price, which will be roughly $92.
Okay, cool. And I guess you could divide it by, if you see a Canadian price, you divide it by 1.32 or...
I'd assume so.
Something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say math's my strongest suit.
Okay, yeah. So where are you guys located?
We are located in Niagara on the lake. So, I don't know. Do you know where Niagara Falls is?
I do, yes.
Okay, so we're about 10 clicks from Niagara Falls, so maybe a 10-15 minute drive.
Nice. Okay. So basically right across the border from the US.
Yeah, exactly. We're right on the lake. We're kind of out in farm country right now. I operate just out of my my home at the moment. I have the basement configured into a shop, but hopefully soon we're going to try and rent an office somewhere in the city so we can get, a little bit more space for putting together orders and inventory and whatnot.
Now, do you run everything yourself or do you have employees?
I was running everything myself. As of about a week and a half ago now, I hired two of my friends this summer. Josh, who does all the lubricating for me of the cubes, and he just helps me with daily stuff. And then we hired a couple of my friends who do all of our recording, so vlogs, unboxings, all of that. They record and edit for me, and then we just put them up on our YouTube.
Nice. Okay. Sounds good. Now, what's a typical day like for you, a work day?
Okay, so typical work day. Usually I'm up by 5 or 6 in the morning. I get ready for the day, head downstairs, fulfill whatever orders have come through overnight, and then it's just I always put together a list that night or the last night of what I want to do in the morning. So I'll go through my list, see if there's descriptions that need to be added to cubes or more pictures, looking at new stock, what we should get, managing all the social media, talking to customers, going through emails, things like that. And then throughout the day, I'll continue to put together orders as they come through. Then once I'm finished all that, I'll head out the door and deliver them.
Nice. Okay, cool. How did you launch your Maple Cubes? Could you tell us the story of coming out with those?
Yeah. Well, when you say launch, do you mean the first ever release or the newest ones?
I would say the newer ones.
The newer ones? All right. So, as I'm sure quite a few people know now, I took over CANcube from Alex Keats, who was the founder. When he came out with Maple Cubes, he did a lot of experimenting to figure out the perfect setup for them. And I hadn't quite yet talked to him about what was used because I believe he was on vacation. So it was about 2 weeks of just trial and error, lubricating cubes, sending them out to sponsors, figuring out what was good, and then talking to him finally and finding an equilibrium between what felt good and what people wanted. So as of this week, we went to Canadian Champs and got about 50 people's feedback, and it seems like a lot more people want fast premium cubes. So we're working on making super, like nice feeling cubes that have a good speed to them but aren't uncontrollable.
Nice. And your Maple lubricant?
Yeah, so Maple Lube, it's interesting. It's kind of like I think Angstrom Dignitas, Gravitas, whatever the clear one is. It comes in a container like that, and it's a similar viscosity, but it provides a really different feel. So from my experiences and from what I've heard from other people as well, it starts out really gummy when you put it in the cube. So it kind of slows it down as it breaks in, but I'd say after about 50 to 100 solves, it becomes super smooth, and it just makes the puzzle an all-around really good feeling, or it gives the puzzle an all-around really good feeling. It's definitely one of my favorite lubes to use, especially with DNM. It's a really good mixture.
Okay, cool. Is that one scented?
So we thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
We actually do have a sample downstairs that is it's maple scented, but I didn't like how it smelled personally, and I wasn't sure how people would take having scented lube. So it's definitely something I want to look at in the future, but I haven't quite yet dove into too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering that because Speed Cube Shop has the pepper or candy cane lube, or did have that.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. It's wild that they can come up with that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. You guys have sponsored cubers as well. Could you tell us about them and who you sponsor?
Yeah, sure. I can just cover a few people who we're sponsoring right now. So we're currently sponsoring a couple YouTube channels and a couple solvers. So as for content creators, our main ones are, we have KVS Cuber, Starry and Yashi, and I guess I could say Ryan Wu because he also does YouTube. But our other sponsors are mainly solvers, so that's also Ryan Wu and Leo Minford, and they're really great. I love our team of sponsors. They do a lot for us. They really support CanCube, and they help me out a lot because I'll send things their way to get opinions on, and I never get a biased answer, which is good. So it's nice having a team that I can trust and fall back on when I really need opinions or help with the company.
Yeah, I can really see that. That's great that you got a good team backing you. Now, how did you get introduced to the Rubik's Cube?
When it comes to starting cubing, so I started cubing, I think 7 years ago now, and it was because one of my best friends, Jeremy, his family, all of his siblings, all of his cousins, they're all cubers, and they kind of have taught each other as they go. So his cousin taught his brother taught him, and then he decided to teach me. So it was kind of just passing down through friends and family and whatnot. It wasn't efficient at all. It was just beginners. But from there, I went to go and learn more stuff through videos and practice and solve with friends. And I enjoyed it quite a bit because it was something I could just pick up and do whenever, and it had a really great community to it. So I just kind of fell in love with cubing right away after he taught me, and since then it's just been a really great journey.
Where would you say you became like an official speed cuber and you wanted to get faster at the puzzle instead of just knowing how to solve it?
I would say probably, so I spent about a month after I first learned just trying to figure out, OLL, PLL. And it was about a month after that my buddy told me about F2L and kind of taught me intuitive. And like as soon as he taught me that, I just got super excited about the thought of doing more efficient solves and getting faster. So I spent like the next 3 months just drilling algs, learning things. And I'd say in that time period is where I really became a speed solver.
Okay, cool. And then what led you to start, or you said take over CANcube? Could you tell us that story?
Yeah, I can. So Alex Keats, as I mentioned, was the founder, the original owner of CanCube, and I met him at my first ever competition. So I went to, I think it was either 2017 or 2018, in Pickering, Toronto. It was Pickering or Toronto, somewhere in that area. I had gone to that competition with a couple buddies, and I met him while I was solving. He was one of the judges. And basically we talked that entire comp, me and my friends with him, and he just told us about, CanCube, and from there we kind of became friends, and I had started ordering from CanCube and meeting up with him more and going to competitions, and we became good friends over the next 2 years. And it was last yeah, it was the last December, I noticed CanCube didn't have any stock coming in anymore. So the shop was missing a lot of cubes. Things were, starting to slow down. And then we got a message, and Alex had announced that he was going to be shutting down CanCube because he's following, or he's going to, I believe, somewhere in Europe for school. So he wouldn't be able to run it anymore. And I had reached out to him and I said, "Why are you shutting down CanCube?" Like, I couldn't process the thought that, a store we kind of stuck with for a few years and loved so much was going to be gone like that. And he presented the idea that I take it over for him. So I'd talked to my parents, because I'd never done anything like this, thought it through, and of course I really wanted to take over CanCube, so I worked some stuff out with him, and we figured out how to get me started, and I would go under his wing, learn a few things, and then just take it from there. And for the past 7 months or so, it's been a learning experience. I'd say the first 3 months were a little confusing because it's, you're figuring everything out. But I've kind of got the hang of it now, and it's really enjoyable. It's cool being able to continue someone's legacy, um, even though they may not be there to see it.
Yeah, wow. That's a cool story. Is this the first time you've ran a business?
It is. So my family have all run businesses. They've all been like businessmen and entrepreneurs. So it's something I've always wanted to do. And I do a lot of schooling. Like a lot of my classes and choices of classes are all business related. So as soon as I saw that I would have a chance to experience what it's like, I jumped on that right away. And so yeah, this is my first time running a business, but it's going really well.
Cool. Yeah. What has been the most challenging thing since you took it over?
I'd say the hardest is trying to estimate what customers are going to like. So what cubes you should order more of and what you should order less of, because it's kind of all over the place. One month I could buy 50 Aosus and they all sell out within a week or two. And then the next month I could buy maybe 100 and only 20 sell for the next 2 months. So it's really it's kind of give or take, and you have to be cautious when ordering big amounts and see what people are going to want to get and look at statistics. So I'd say that's my biggest challenge.
Okay. Has there been one cube that you ordered that you still just have a bunch of and can't get rid of?
Yeah. So we had a big summer sale happen, and usually I do that when there's too much of a cube that needs to be cleared out. But one thing there's two main cubes that I still haven't been able to get rid of, and that's the Maylong 3x3, which is one of my favorite puzzles. It's really, really good in my opinion, but I think people want a little bit higher end puzzles, magnetic, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And Lingao clocks. Just plain old Lingao clocks, nobody wants them. They just sit there, which I understand. So that's why we make maple clocks, because Lingao clocks by themselves are awful. I mean, it's painful to solve on them. So I think maple clocks is the key to getting rid of those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but the Maylong 3x3s, those recently came out, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a great cube just to play with or to give away.
It is, yeah.
That's cool.
So it's weird, yeah.
Not cool, but
No,
that's an interesting fact, yeah. What are some of your hottest selling items right now?
Hottest selling? Well, by far the Yushin Little Magic. Every time we get it in stock, it sells out like that. It seems to be like a really big seller and a puzzle that everyone wants, because it's not only is it a really good performing cube, but it's cost effective, right? And that's kind of why I was confused why the Maylong wasn't selling, because it's the same. It's cost effective, well done, but I think maybe the Yushin Little Magic has just had a lot more screen time, I guess, on YouTube, and a lot more people talk about it.
Seemed like there was quite the hype when that came out, and it's really continued with people putting magnets in it and all that.
Yeah, it's been a cube that just wants to stay on the market and do well, and I'm fine with that, because it's a good cube, and I'm always happy to have them in stock.
What, in your opinion, has been the biggest hardware improvement, in the past year? Could be any cube, any event.
Puzzles have come so far already. I mean, basically, any modern day speed cube is going to be good. I mean, you can't go wrong with them, in my opinion. But when it comes to the most advancements in hardware, or the biggest improvements, I'd have to say the Valk 2. Probably just because from all the 2x2s I've tried, it's a really different feeling, because it's controllable. The magnet placements are something that I've never seen in 2x2s before, and it seems to really work well. So when that for 2x2, then for 3x3, I would say most likely the GTS 3 and WRM with their new tensioning system. That was really cool to see because no, you didn't really have to worry about the pain of evening out tensions. You could just click it in and go. So I'd say those two were the biggest improvements for sure.
Okay, yeah. Definitely some good new cubes. Could you tell us about some interesting orders or order requests, order comments you've had?
I would say that probably one of the strangest orders we've had was someone wanted to buy, I think, if I remember correctly, it's a GTS 2 or a GTS 3 Maple just for themselves. I was talking to them. They didn't want to get it for like a group, no discounts, not for a party or anything, but they wanted to get about 15 to 20 Maple GTS 3s or 2s, something, one of those two. Just for, I don't know what they wanted to do with them, but usually when we get people who want to get big orders of stuff, they'll ask for a discount, but this person just wanted to get 15, 20 for themselves.
When someone clicks confirm order, what happens on your end?
Okay, so two things. I get a notification on my phone and I get an email. So what I'll do is I usually go to my email, I check what the order is, click on it, and then it'll bring up all the orders that I've gotten that day. So maybe I'll wait for 5 notifications to come in and then I'll put them all together at once while I'm in the office. But so I'll get the order, I go into my website, click on it, shows me what they want. So I grab those puzzles, throw them into a package, gently place. I close the package and then ship them out. It's a really fast process from confirm to Canada Post.
Okay. Does CANcube vend at competitions?
We do, but I haven't done that yet. I'm looking at starting a competition maybe sometime this summer or early or late September, which we're going to vend at. But I want to work at vending more competitions. At the moment, it's a little bit difficult because a lot of competitions in Canada are run by a company called Canada Cubing or Canadian Cubing or something. And they are owned by our competition, Cubing Out Loud. So they usually are the ones who are vending at the competitions because it's their company. So I haven't really figured out a way to vend at anyone's hosted by other people yet. So it's really reliant on me going and hosting competitions, then vending at those.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. If you were to organize a competition, what area would it be in?
First, I'd start local, I say. So there's a university in the area here called Brock University. And we've hosted there once before, so I'd say, or Alex had. So I would probably do that area, get kind of the feel for hosting a competition, understand it, and then from there I'd start branching out Canada-wide and find areas that have, a lot of demand for competitions or that people really want to go to, and then figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always nice when organizing a competition if you can find a venue that is cost effective, like really fits the competition you're trying to host and is nearer to where you live. If you can find a venue like that, it's always nice reusing it.
Yeah, of course.
Just knowing you have a good venue that works for a WCA competition.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier to get to. It's not as big of a hassle than, hopping on a plane, lugging cubes with you, going there, making sure that everything's all right. So, yeah.
Could you tell us about the CANcube YouTube and Instagram channels?
Yeah, of course. What do you want to know?
What kind of content you produce and what's on each, like, what do you usually post on your YouTube and then what pictures on your Instagram?
Our Instagram we use more of as a behind the scenes and kind of update area. So we post all of our updates and like new product and what we're doing on Instagram mostly. And then YouTube's where we like to put our higher, like super high end quality super high quality, informative stuff. So unboxings, reviews, vlogs, mainly stuff like that, and sometimes we'll put the odd announcement on YouTube. But it's usually things like unboxings and whatnot.
Yeah, on Instagram, I always love seeing behind the scenes stuff and hearing behind the scenes information. You probably could tell from some of the questions I asked today that I like knowing that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, it's cool to see what goes on with cube stores, right? Because it's kind of, I mean, looking at it from the outside, it's kind of a mystery.
For sure. Just you order something and then it shows up at your door in a few days.
Yeah, right.
You don't know what goes into it. What about the future of CANcube? What do you see happening, and what are your goals?
Well, I mean, goal-wise, it's simple. I want to be, of course, like any good business, I'm aiming to be, at the top. I would like to be not just a cube store that's trying to help out Canadian cubers, but a cube store that can supply, everyone around the world, cheap pricing on shipping, and be able to get everyone the puzzles they need with a really wide selection. Because right now our selection, we're trying to add to it and make it grow, but it's not there yet. So I think in the future I'd like to have almost all the puzzles that other stores have, or all of them, and just be able to deliver like a big cubing company would.
Could you go through what events you do and then your mains for each event? Because it's really cool. You have access to almost any cube out there, so you can really pick what you like best.
That's true. That's what that's a really cool a thing about owning a cube company is, that like my collection's growing from 12 cubes to I think I almost have 100 now.
Nice.
just personal collection. So when it comes to events and whatnot, I'd say my main events are 2x2, 3x3, and 5x5. I really dislike 4x4. Not something I can do, and I don't think I'll ever really get good at. But my mains are, right now, I use a Vulc 2M, a WRM for 3x3, and I think I'm using the... Actually, okay, so it's kind of a tie right now for 5x5. For 5x5, it's either between the Moyu, I think it's called the Aochuang GTS, and the Vulc 5. So those two are I'm competing for with mains, but that's to be decided later on.
Mm-hmm. What's like the difference between them, and what makes them so competitive?
I think it's not that there's a difference between them, well, that I've really noticed. It's just they're both so well performing that I can't decide which one I want to use both, because I like them both so much. So I think I just need to crank a couple thousand solves on each till I can really decide.
Yeah, Okay, now starting to wrap up here. One of the final questions is, what's something you've changed your mind about recently?
Oh, that's good actually. Wow, that's really tough, because I mean I'm constantly changing my mind, but I'd have to say one of my big things would be probably deciding, this is kind of like lame, or it sounds lame, but this is something that was really tough for me to decide between. When it comes to us custom magnetizing cubes, getting magnets for those cubes is always a pain, because we have to usually order from China, and sometimes it can take upwards of a month to get to us. So deciding how many, like what, if we want to just use cubes that have already been magnetized, or if we want to start magnetizing all the cubes, has been something I really have struggled between. And I've decided as of now we're going to focus on lubricating, pre-magnetized cubes like the Haze 7M and Vulc 2M and WRM. And then we're going to slowly work on getting our inventory up of magnets so that we can custom magnetized cubes and have them maybe a little bit cheaper, right?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
But I'd say that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, great answer. Now, where can people find and follow you and CANcube on the internet?
We're most prominent on YouTube and Instagram. So all you have to do if you're on YouTube or Instagram is just search up CANcube, and it'll be the first result that comes up, and you can always stay up to date with us or ask questions there.
Okay, and of course, CANcube.ca for the website.
Of course, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Garrett, thanks so much for taking the time with me today to share all the information about CANcube and giving us all the behind-the-scenes information.
Of course, no, thank you very much for having me. I always like doing this stuff because I love answering questions and getting to talk with other people, so it's always a joy.
That was fun. It's so interesting learning how Garrett runs things on a daily basis, behind the scenes, and all that is so interesting. So, if you have any feedback on this episode, please email in. My email address is josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. If you're a customer of CANcube, or now you're planning on ordering from CANcube because you listened to this episode, you can use the discount code CornerCutter to get 10% off your order. And you can go to the show notes to this episode or go to the cornercutterpodcast.com/support and click on the affiliate link there. And by doing that and using the code CornerCutter, you're supporting the podcast as well as getting a nice discount. So just go to the show notes or the cornercutterpodcast.com/support and click on the link right in there. Coming up on the Corner Cutter podcast next week, we are going to be doing a Nationals 2019 wrap-up, and that will be with Sean from SpeedCube Review. That's going to be exciting and fun, so make sure to come back next Tuesday or Wednesday for that. And then the next week, we'll have the non-interview episode with your answers to question of the month. So that's super exciting. Can't wait for those episodes. Make sure you stick around and hit subscribe if you're not already. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and a bunch of other podcast apps and directories as well. So now it's about time to take episode 83 back to the scrambling table, and I'll talk to you again next week in episode 84 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. Special thanks to whoever has recently said some kind words about the podcast. I really appreciate your support. Talk to you next week.